Welcome back, everyone, to another fantastic Trotec Laser Live on a Friday. I'm here with Laser Dave in my happy place, in my taupe void. I hope
Happy
everyone's
Halloween,
doing very
everyone.
well. Yes, happy Halloween. I'm so sorry we're not wearing costumes, but I assure you there are spooky things just out of frame all around us. Uh,
I'm dressed as Laser Dave.
that's right. Yes, exactly. So happy to have you all with us this month and for this Ruby stream. Again, these are going to be something that we're going to keep repeating as long as you guys keep asking for them. And I will say we had a tremendous turnout in terms of pre-registrations for this stream. So thank you all so much for your continued interest. We'll keep doing them as long as you guys want to see them. We're 100% happy to do that for you. For
Absolutely.
anybody who hasn't seen one of these streams before, I'd love to introduce you to Laser Dave, who is the man. How are you, sir?
I'm doing outstanding. Uh, Good days. We live here in Arizona right now, and it's finally cooling down. So this is kind of
Awesome.
like our springtime. So I'm much happier for that. It's not sweltering hot outside every time you walk outside now.
Hats off to anybody who lives in Arizona, Texas, any of those southern states. I don't,
Yeah.
it's incredible as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, the weather's
Um,
great though.
oh, beautiful. In fact, I'll
Yeah.
be there this Christmas is my intention in order that I
See,
can
there you go.
benefit from that 100%. Um, Also, for anybody who happens to be watching this for the first time, Liz, Dave, and I have a few very small things I think kind of on the docket that we'd love to talk about, but there is no really set agenda. So we hope that if you're watching live with us here on YouTube or wherever you might be watching from, that you'll feel free to just toss a question into the chat. We'll be grabbing as many and as often as we can from that chat question log. And if I don't grab your question right away, rest assured, I've seen them. I'm just kind of stabbing or tabulating and stacking together makes stabbing. It's very Halloween appropriate. So I'm just tabulating them in the background, and I'll be throwing as many as I can to Dave. I'll be grabbing some myself if I can, but I want you to rest assured that we see your questions, and we are so glad that you guys are joining us. If you'd like to say hello from the chat, let us know where you're watching from. We'd also love that. And just feel free to toss as many questions in there as you like. I think the more questions we get in the chat, the more people know that they can ask them in there. There's no bad questions, I assure you. Any question you can think of, Dave and I have asked it at some time in the past of Ruby. So um, just as a quick refresher for anybody too, so the current version of Ruby, the most recent one is the 2.11. Dave, am I
Yes,
right in saying?
that is right.
So you can go back also to our past two Ruby streams, which have also been since the 2.11 launch, and you can see some of the topics that we've covered off in those streams. If the one you're interested in doesn't happen to come up today, or if you're maybe watching this later on YouTube and we don't cover off, oh, I wish they talked about this one feature, there's every chance we might have talked about it in the last two Ruby streams. So very grateful for everybody who's jumping in here. Wendy, DNS, Walters, Maloney, very happy to have you all with us. Thanks to everyone watching from St. Louis, Morrisburg, Ontario. Awesome. Great to see those questions starting to come in. So as a first topic, while we let some of the people who might be running just a little bit behind hop into the stream, and we let some questions build up here in the chat, I think, Dave, did we want to maybe pull up a laser here on screen, and I think we had something we wanted to chat just as like a kickoff.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of questions and stuff on some of the things. The one thing that I think we wanted to kind of touch on again as questions are coming in is profiles. The profiles is just one of those things it's kind of confusing on what it can do for you. So I kind of wanted to go through it a little bit again as we're getting started here. I'm on a different laser machine today, so that I actually have the camera on the system. My previous one was the old Speedy 300. And good side note, our new Speedy 300s and 100s now have the camera built into them. So that's a great
Yes.
little segue here. So you can now get the camera system on the newer style Speedy 100 and 300 so you can see what we're working on. But profiles is one of those things that can dramatically speed you up. And if you're using it correct and you're running those jobs to where you have constant changes to the graphics, or 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, and then you want to make it quick, fast, and efficient, Profiles is one of those new features that has been out on the last several versions of Ruby, but like I say, it's misunderstood. And so I kind of wanted to show kind of how to just quickly generate a profile and how it could be useful. I do have videos and stuff that show it as well, but the one thing I haven't really done is kind of gone through and actually created a profile. So within Ruby itself, no matter what screen you're in, you're going to hit the drop-down menu here, and you're going to hit Profiles. What profiles are is the ability to basically pre-program all the presets. So I can literally drag or drop a graphic into it and it skips the line. It's kind of like the fast pass of Ruby. So you drag a file into it and you don't have to go to the prepare screen, the manage screen, the design, the location, the parameters, any of that. It's all done for you. So when you're setting up a new profile, and right now I don't have any profiles in here. This is the new machine that I have in my lab. And so to set up a profile, it's the same process of going through the steps of, you know, I got to pick a material and then I got to make the adjustments and then I got to position it and then hit start it. It's kind of basically pre-identifying a recipe specifically for a product. So if you're doing tumblers and you have a different graphic every single time a person grabs it in and you want to just drag it to a profile, you can then put your profiles will show up right here. You can see I do actually have one right here. I can literally just drag one into it, or I can hit the import button, and which is right here, and then just actively skip the line. And so what a profile does is, I'm going to go ahead and create one here. Profile allows you to just put in the entire recipe here. So I can identify what the device is, what kind of material I'm running. So if I'm going to do wood, I can identify the type of wood. I can identify whether or not I'm using the rotary, the rotation, the location of where it is at on the actual part. And so you may need to do one the first time, write down a few of the locations and positioning so that every single one from then on will give us the ability to position in that same exact location. So if I drag and drop a file, it not only will position it into an area, it'll also scale it. You can have it size it or scale it down so that it actually positions it. And so it scales down to size, and you can position that by playing around with it. You can also identify the start X and Y positions, the distance between individual parts. So if you drag in 5 or 6 different files, it'll put them together so that you have multiples at one time, but there's a distance between them. You can automatically save that. So if you need to go back to it and use it again, you can save it as a design, a job, or just send it to the queue. And so go through each one of these. Not all of them are ever going to be needed for your job. It really depends on the specific job. So if I'm just doing cutting and I want to place that position, I don't want it right at 0, 0. So I want to put this at, just off of the 0, 0. So I'm going to put 0.1 and 0.1. I want it just off. So I'm putting a sheet into the corner, but I don't want it starting right at that 0 margin, because especially if I'm cutting a product. And then you can indicate an anchor point, which is where it would snap to every single time. An anchor point is basically where the laser head is actually located. You can set it to do the inner geometry cut first, overlapping cut lines. You can tell it to just say, hey, don't do overlap. So say you have something that's got a lot of cutting on it and you've got a lot of squares and you don't want that to cut over the one square is covering the other square. That same line that matches the two, you can skip that. And that's something that a lot of people forget about in our software. So skipping those lines. And so when it sees a line on top of another line, it'll only cut that line once. And you can turn that on. You can position all these different things, and then you can hit, if I were to name it at the top, you can basically call it, in this call file, I can call this wood, and then hit save. Now, in here, we have a wood profile that is located. And so if I were to take and just drag a file into it, so if I have a file from another page, or if I have a list on a screen, or if I have an entire page of design files, I can literally just take them from my desktop and just drag them right to here. And when I drag those files into it, and you can actually use these designs too. So I want to just drag this one into here. And so what that did is it's already in the queue, ready to run. It has the power, the speed, the parameters, the location, the focus point, anything that you put in. And you can go back and edit it if you don't. Sorry, go ahead, Don, what were you saying?
Well, I was just going to say, so it dropped into the queue because that was the step that you set it to inside the profile, correct? Like that's where you set it to. Gotcha. Correct. Okay.
So the benefit of this is you can drag it from your designs here, or off of if I have them on in a folder on my desktop, I can drag them from there directly past this into this profile. And then say I'm doing a graphic on a tumbler and the customer texts it to me, I could literally drag it on my phone, in Ruby on my phone, directly into the profile and then push start on the laser. He could text it to me on my phone. I could take that and save that file on my phone or iPad or computer, drag it to the Ruby. It'll size it, scale it, rotate it, tell it the diameter, and then start engraving that onto my tumbler, literally from a text. That is the power of it. We're not positioning, we're not orienting, we're not using our red pointer to find the position or the camera. We've preset all those things. And so it's kind of like I said, the fast pass. It allows you to just drag and drop a file. Once I drag and drop it and say, hey, I want to run this one, you know, I'm going to run this cut file right here. And I want to drag that one in. Again, now I have 2 files in my queue. And then you can hit it start. You can take this a step further where you have an API. So you have customers designing directly on a website. And when they design it on a website, you can link that API through your website to our profiles. So when somebody designs something, builds it on your website, and we can give you the tools on how to do that, they pay for the graphic, they see what it's going to look like on their screen, and they hit send. It then links to your Ruby through a profile. So when you come in the morning to say, okay, I got some orders, I don't even need to load the customer files. I just go into my queue and say, oh, here's all my orders ready to go. Start putting the material in and hitting start, taking the image and tying it up with the customer, and then ship the unit out. The profile, the parameter, the settings, the location, they're all predefined for you.
Absolutely. Well, and I can really see where, particularly to your point, if it's a job that you do every single day, what the profile serves to do, kind of even at a base level, is just shortcut those steps that you know you're taking every single time anyways. So you might as well just save them into an overall box, and then you know everything has to go through that, like you said, that recipe, that particular funnel, regardless of whether you do it yourself or you have Ruby do it automatically for you. So rather than have to retype it out every single time, it allows you to just say, okay, I do this every single time. If it's a project on wood, I know it's going to be this size, this shape, because I always do it in the same size charcuterie board, whatever it is. You know what I mean? So it allows you to kind of fast pass.
Print and cut has been a real popular hat patches,
Sure.
real popular application. And so you can literally just drag your cut file from your print directly into there, push start, and tell it in the profile that you're using the camera registration's turning on. You're cutting 3mm acrylic. And so I just drag my file in. It already knows the camera's on. It immediately, when you hit start, the camera profile goes out and looks for the registration points, orients, and cuts it out. So you're skipping the step. So stick your print in, drag your file into your profile, hit start, and it'll register and cut every single time. It works exceptionally well.
The other thing I like about this too is I frequently talk with customers where perhaps when they bought the laser, they had 1 or 2 operators who were trained at that time, and they become really, really talented. But every so often, they would love if one of their other staff could just step in and quickly set up a product and run it, right? But they don't want to have to go through the challenge of having to explain to them from zero how the laser works and what they should be doing and da, 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 da. But if it's a product that they already know, and you just tell them, hey, place the charcuterie board, whatever it is, in this spot, drag this design into the thing that says charcuterie board, and then press go.
There you go.
know already it's going to turn out great, right? And there's no need for that added kind of complexity for you or for your operator at that time.
Yep. Your focus is set right. Your Z-axis is set right. Your parameters are set right. And it drastically reduces the chance for error.
That's right. Now, one quick question for you, and I don't know if you'll know the answer to this. It just occurred to me while you were talking. If you have sub-users, so if you're not the super admin Ruby user, but you have sub-users, so maybe you have different people in your organization, do you know if the profiles are shared in the same way as when you create a sub-user, you can also say, hey, show all jobs or show just my jobs kind of thing? I wonder if the profiles are shared across multiple users as well, or if that's something that you would need to be.
That is a great question, and one I have not actually tried, because I know as profiles, we have schools use it where there's hundreds of students. Every student can have their own access to Ruby, and only they see what they set up when it comes to files and designs. But when it comes to actual configurations like profiles, that is a great question. I'm going to have to do either a quick test to see if that's the case by setting up another profile, because I don't work with a lot of customers. So if anybody's done that, let us know in the chat. But if not, on our next stream, I will find out and confirm that question. So that is a great question, Don. And
I got one.
I don't have an answer. You got me on that one. It's not one I've come across yet.
I can retire. Okay, so I appreciate that. I think again, I would encourage you if you're out there using your laser and you haven't tried profiles yet, give it a quick try. I think when you get in there and you start playing with some of the options and flipping the switches, you'll understand very intrinsically. If you've already run a job or two on your Trotec, it is literally the same steps you would normally be following regardless as part of our
Yeah.
standard workflow. It's just allowing you to put them in essentially like a menu that says,
Yeah. It
if you're
seems a
positioning
little
this thing,
intimidating, but it's just they're all grouped together. It's the same buttons that you would go through to put a file, open a file. So if I wanted to run this file and position it and size it and then hit create job and then, turn my camera on or position it to a specific location, and place it onto the screen, I know that it's going to be at this position. Here's your orientation and location points. If I always wanted it in this same one, I would write these numbers down over here, and then create a profile knowing it's always going to be in this same spot, wherever that spot may be. Or you can set it as an anchor point. And so, if I shut the camera off here, you can see the anchor point is basically where the red pointer is on the machine. And so if you just position your red pointer on the laser on your product, you can set the profile to automatically go to that. And so if the red pointer positioned to the graphic, and wherever that laser happens to be on the field, the file will then snap to that spot and run at that spot. That's what the anchor point is used for.
And that way too, like say, if you've got jigs or whatever set up in your laser, you can have separate jigs for products that you run frequently, or to your point, positioning on a rotary for particular types of Yetis.
It may change a little bit on one-to-one. You don't want to make a new profile one, but you can set it as an anchor point. So yes, you have to position your red pointer where it starts, but your profile is set to automatically snap your graphic either to the center point or say to just to the top corner of that anchor point automatically. And so you position the red pointer, push start, and then immediately it adjusts the graphic and positions it to wherever you put it. And so this way, something can change every single one. Now, something you do in the final here, let me hit no on this. You can click this button in your final one to basically anchor point to laser. And when I turn that on, every time I send a file, it'll adjust that job to the anchor point of the laser pointer as well. You can do that in addition to the profile.
Awesome. I have one last question for you before I hop into the chat questions here, and it is one I got from a customer earlier this week, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to check my answer against yours. Okay. When you're setting up a new material, inside of your settings, there's one that says high quality on or off.
Okay. That's a good question.
A customer asked me, what is this and why would I ever turn it why would I not want high quality? So just to clear the air on what quote unquote high quality means when it comes to setting up a material setting.
Yeah, and high quality is one of those ones that everybody's like, well, of course I want high quality. Why wouldn't I want my quality to be the best it could possibly be?
I bought a Trotec, didn't I? Yeah.
And so there is there's an advantage of high quality and there's a disadvantage of high quality. What high quality does is it kind of makes your laser kind of static when it comes to actually engraving. So the easiest analogy I have found to kind of showcase this feature is, say you're engraving a triangle, right? A triangle that's got a really tip point on the top, and then it kind of gets wider and wider. If I turn my high quality off, when I laser engrave that, it's going to start really, really fast at the beginning of that triangle, and then it's going to get wider and wider. And that raster head or that laser head's going to go back and forth and basically kind of follow that profile of that triangle as it's engraving it. That is what high quality off. When it's on, it's going to treat that triangle like a square. So you get a continuous stroke over the top of it. And no matter if it's just one little point and it's hitting, that laser's ramped up consistently and given us a back and forth motion. And it's the same back and forth left and right stroke as the entire graphic. It maintains better quality. The laser's guaranteed to be up to speed. And for intricate, specific little details and serifs on text, it may be an issue. But the drawback, it takes more time. You're spending more time accelerating beyond those points to make certain the quality is higher, so it affects productivity. And in most cases, I find the Trotec is so good, 98% of applications do not need this feature. If you're running into something where you're doing leatherette's notorious for being troublesome, especially with some colors, those little serifs and inconsistent points, and yes, high quality can help. But on most applications, turn it off. It's just going to take more time, and then you're not going to produce as much product in a day.
Well, and you can let your customers know, look, my product looks even this good, and I haven't even turned on the high quality
Yeah,
mode. So you
right,
can imagine
right.
what it'll look like when I turn on high quality. A fantastic little comment here from Timo. The profiles are created by the super admin. Anyone can use them, but not anyone can make them.
Oh, right. Yeah,
There we go.
there you go. And so if that's the case, then a super admin makes them, then everyone should be able to see them. Yeah. So that's awesome. So that would actually be helpful. So if a teacher that had a bunch of students, or a center or something like that does a lot of the same products, the person
Mhm.
that really knows the equipment can make them, and then everybody can benefit by them. So there you go. I figured some of the users probably had that feature. I just don't. I'm the only user in my lab, so I'm the super admin.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to start up here at the top, and I've got some great questions coming in. I'll try to grab them in differing levels of difficulty, but it's always tough to know. So let's start with this one from DNS. Since the upgrade, and I assume they mean since 2.11, when you hit the pause button, it can take 10 to 15 seconds before the laser will pause. And I will say I've noticed something similar, and I presumed it was to do with the setup of the graphic as opposed to how it was interpreting the pausing of the laser, as opposed to just hitting pause and it's screeching to a halt wherever it might be.
Yeah, and hi Dan, by the way, DNS. He's a good friend of mine. We're actually not too far from here, up in New
Awesome.
River. So, yes, that is something. When you hit a pause button, it can take 10 to 15 seconds to pause. I haven't run into that issue. Have you seen that, Don, where you hit pause, it can take 10 to 15 seconds?
I definitely have. I presumed originally it might be something to do with because when it happened to me, it was while I was cutting, and so I presumed maybe that the laser was looking to
Yeah.
complete a particular vector line and then
Yes.
stop, as opposed to stopping mid-vector and then trying to kick
Yeah.
off again
Okay.
from that
Okay.
point.
And I think that's what kicks. When you're rastering the back and forth, it's going to get to the end of the stroke, which happens very quickly. So when you hit
Hmm.
pause on an engraving, it's very quickly. But you are absolutely right. If you're doing a vector and it's continuing a curve, when you hit the pause second, it doesn't typically like to stop right in the middle of that curve. It's going to get to the next node. And depending on the speed, the type of graphic that you're running, it may take a second or a few seconds to get around to wherever that next node is. And the nodes are the little stop points, if they will. If you have to stop it immediately, you can lift the lid if there's a flare up or something like that. But yes, and that's what it's doing. It's doing it so that in essence, it's kind of like a save point, if you will. So if you
Mhm.
hit pause, it makes certain it gets to that next node, so that if I have to open the laser, close it again, I can push pause or resume. It'll continue where it's going to not won't be left off. And that's why it's doing that. It literally is trying to complete get to that next save point, because the software doesn't. It's basically there's 2 points and it has to finish that out. And if you're running at 0.1%, it may take 10, 15 seconds. Where if you're
Makes
doing it really
sense.
quickly, or if you're engraving, it'll do it almost instantly.
Question here from TAC Templates. Why would I be getting different results using the stamp mode in job control versus Ruby when I'm using the exact same settings? Should I have to adjust my settings using the same material when using Ruby?
Hmm.
Um, That is a tricky question. I think some of that I'm inclined to say is going to depend on the age of your laser, certainly, but
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
that's a good question. I mean, I have found that the parameters are the same. The acceleration, the speeds are the same. When it comes to, and it's just stamp mode. I guess I haven't run job control stamp mode next to Ruby stamp mode, because I know when I've done, 1% speed cutting with job control and 1% speed cutting with Ruby, the parameters are the same. So I haven't heard of that, running the job control rubber stamp. That is a great question. As of today, job control is fully discontinued. This is the last day
Mm,
for full support. So I no longer even have job control to test this. So I would have to reach out to somebody that may still have job control on a system and try, because I'm not certain why. The only thing I could think, nothing makes any sense. I'm trying to think of anything that could cause that, like
I
a version of grayscale or something. It maybe it sees a little different in color, maybe. Um,
Because I presume
It's
that
good.
whether you're using like a print driver style way to communicate with the laser or you're using Ruby, obviously the laser is still interpolating the data in the same way. It's not going to.
Exactly. Yeah. This is why the
Um,
parameters when you updated from job control to Ruby were the same. When it migrated all your old settings from job controls into Ruby, nothing changed. The parameters, the speeds, the power, the cut speeds, nothing changed from one software to the next. But
right.
stranger things have happened.
Um, I will say, let us come back to you on that one. Let us see what
Yeah.
we can do. I'm gonna work with Dave and see if we can, like say, find somebody who's got
Yeah.
job control, and let's see what we can. Because that's a great question. And if there is a difference, we're gonna
Yeah.
want to
Especially.
know why.
Wow. Yeah, especially if it's just rubber stamps. That's a strange part. Does it
Hmm.
happen, with this customer? Does it happen with other materials? Do you see a difference from all parameters on the setting, or is it just rubber stamp?
Or I wonder if they're just primarily a rubber stamp customer
Yeah,
doing
that could
only,
be. Yeah.
Um, uh, question here from Jeff. Is there a way to get the design name into the job name so I don't have to retype it for every job? And is there a way to auto-save jobs? So my understanding with this is if you did a design that had the name of the design in it, when you created a job from that, it should carry over
Yeah.
the name from the design screen, but we could do a quick
Yeah, yeah, it's
testo if
pretty
you wanted
simple.
to.
And so in this case, I have a job. This one's called Lizard 1. If I come up here and change it to Lizard 3 and then hit create job, it's still Lizard 3. And so it is now in the job. I would identify the material, say I'm going to cut it on, that's acrylic clear. So pick a material that I want to run. And then, if this job is saved, it's still Lizard 3, so and you don't have to save it. It'll save it automatically. I don't have to come up and hit save every single time. So if I just go ahead and say, okay, this one's ready, let's hit push to queue, it's now in the queue. And so if I go back to my jobs here, I now have one called Lizard 3. I didn't have to do anything except for once it was created as a design and then turned into a job, it's now. And so I now have one that's in my designs. And the difference between a design don't have a profile set to it. So it doesn't know where it's going to cut. It doesn't know what parameter is going to cut. A job does. So, and that's why a lot of people, when they're in here, they're like, well, I can't grab another job and bring it onto this page. It's because each one of the jobs have a power setting, a cut setting, a material already assigned to it, where I can go to my designs and then grab those over and say, hey, I want to bring this job over and this one over. So any one of these jobs I can bring over because they don't have a parameter set. But the name itself should always be, and you can rename it up here afterwards and change it to whatever you want. But the second you push it to the laser, it becomes a job. If you don't, it'll and then you go back out, it'll say, hey, do you want to leave this page because you haven't done it? Once you push it to laser, it becomes a job. If you don't do that, it may not save it.
Or if you try to grab another job and you've made change, it'll say that same prompt of you've made changes to this. Do you want to save it? Yes or no?
Do you want to save it? And then you have to manually save it right here. You can either save it or you can save it as a new job and rename it again that way. So all those things should work on you with your jobs. But it may be that you're not pushing it to the laser. Maybe you're abandoning it. That's the only reason it won't save it or name it. But the name should follow suit, just like I just showed you there. I'm not sure what would be different on your system.
Yeah, it should work in the way I think you're expecting it to work. But if it's not working that way, definitely mytrotec.com or mytrotec.ca and let us know, because that would be one we would want to take a look at for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Another quick question here from Dan. Can you take an SVG that has 3 components into Ruby and then break them apart inside of Ruby?
Yes. The nice thing about the Ruby itself, the break apart to a certain extent, the node editing and stuff like that is still in its basic form. Being able to group, ungroup, break apart and stuff like that so here we go. I just went out of here and it's like, hey, do you want to save your changes? And if I hit no, I didn't save those changes. But yeah, and so if I had this one, you can see this has got lots of individual little pieces. And so, but if you come in and that SVG is broke, or it is what do you call it? It is combined together. Yeah, group basically. And so in Ruby, there's this little button right here, which people don't realize that's there. And so when you select it, you got to click this button here. So now it's one object. And so when I bring it in here and it's like, okay, I need to edit this piece, I need to click this teeny little button right here that it's very difficult to know that it's there, so that now I can say, okay, I want to make this one, you know, red, or I want to make this a cut file or an outline, or I want to, you know, yeah, I want to make it I want to cut the leg out. So let's make it oh, that's a wave. I put 1 inch instead of 0.01, 0.1.
Poor lizard 3.
What?
Poor lizard 3.
There we go. Much thinner. So yeah. So if I wanted to cut the leg out or something like that, now I can then break it apart. But you have to hit that little teeny button in there. And you're right. The group and ungroup is kind of, it's not as intuitive, but once you know where that little button is, that's where you would break that apart right here. Now, if that doesn't show up, it could be that file is combined together, strangely enough. Maybe you need to take it into your drawing program that you're using and make sure that it's broken apart. Sometimes they're combined together in a weird way where it doesn't allow you to ungroup or break them apart within Ruby. So you need to make sure they're broken apart, because there's two different things in drawing programs. There's grouped and there's combined. Combined means the whole object is one solid entity. So when you select any component there, you can't hit ungroup. It's like one part. It's like text when you drag all the text. And when you break it apart, now the individual letters in that text are separate little pieces. And that's the difference between a group and a combine.
Question for you here from Proval. So are profiles the same as the settings in the material database? If so, is there an easy way to import them from job control? So the profiles are more to do with kind of a workflow rather than the settings. The settings are an aspect of the profile, but the profile is more about that workflow from the time you bring a job in all the way up until it's in your queue in your laser. But as a kind of a second aspect to that question, if you do have material settings specifically from job control that you wanted to import into Ruby, that certainly is doable, no problem.
There you go. Couldn't have answered it better myself. Yep. All yes.
This is a bit of a tricky one, but I'll throw it out there to see if we know. Is there a way to do parameter development similar to how people do it in Lightburn? Now, I will admit for myself personally, I don't know Lightburn very well. I know a small amount, but I'm still. But the question about the setup for each individual color, for each individual material, can be, I mean, they say painful, but I'll say it can be tedious. What I would say is when you're doing a material setting, there is an oft overlooked option at the end of the material setting where you can duplicate another color if you so choose. So if you're doing a new material setting, you can tell it to copy this from setting whatever. It won't work there because one is engraved and one is cut, but if you go to one that has multiple engraves or multiple cuts, it would allow you to.
So I got a new material here. You can name that material, and we can do up to 16 different colors here. So I can identify up to 16 different colors. And here's another one that confuses a lot of people is the add effect to material.
Effect.
Yeah, it's not an effect. It's just another setting. So a lot of times it's going to give you all these little presets. My suggestion is ignore all of them. They don't really do anything. They put them in there to be helpful, if you will, but they confuse more than help. Ultimately, whenever I'm putting a new material profile in, ignore all. The only one that's useful is a mask. The mask is if I want to make a mask setting. So if I click a mask setting, it has no settings. So say I want a color yellow. There is no power, no speed or anything. And anything time I make something yellow now, it shows on the screen, but that's all it ever does. It will never laser cut, mark or anything. It becomes basically a mark or a location. Great for template. But for any other colors that I want to add, I don't use any of these settings. Again, they're confusing. Engraved dark, it engraves dark if you make that setting engraved dark. They're just kind of preset and ready to define for you. My suggestion is name it yourself. So if I'm doing a cut setting or something like that, or I want to say just cut, 2, and I will make this a cut setting and then I will hit OK. Now I got to cut number 2 setting. Maybe I make a cut 3 and maybe I want to make it engraved deep, or I want to make one in engraved relief mode. I assign what my name is and what it's going to do. Ignore the ones that are preset, unless one of those work for you. That's all it is it's basically they filled in the name for you. That's all that is for you.
Yeah.
Then when I assign a different color and, power, speed, and you can go into advanced and adjust any one of the different settings. And now I've got more than one cut setting. If I want to do that one again, I can hit copy from.
That's what I was talking about. That's the one.
And then I can go into a new one, and then I can do a new one, and then paste that one. So copy from cut to. Yeah, so I can literally just copy and paste them to it, and then I can basically create a duplicate of each one of those, and I can click as many of these as I want. And so, cut with links, or if I want another one that is, and so again, you can see the ones I've managed. Sometimes I'll just say the color green, and I'll say engrave, and I want the color green to be the color green because I'm engraving a material that is green,
Sure.
virtually green, so that it makes it easier for my brain to identify that I'm engraving green stock. And when I engrave green, trolleys or plastic or something like that, maybe I like a certain parameter for it. And so then when I make my graphic that is green, I know the green setting and the power setting is green, but I can now adjust those settings or copy from this one and paste it into another one. So, and you can build these profiles as much as you want, up to 16 different colors for operation, and basically, in essence, program your capabilities for your finished job.
So I started to, as you were speaking, I started thinking about what they might be asking about, and they just posted in the chat, and it is what I started to think is what they're asking about is what is the easiest way to do like a matrix style testing. So if you've got a new material and you want to make a 16 grid thing, having to make a new material setting that is like engraving test and having to make 16 new steps where the first one is black, the second one's red, the third one is on and on and on and on. That aspect, is there a quicker and easier way to do that? And the answer is yes, absolutely there is. We have pre-existing gradiated matrix files that already exist that you can download from, I believe they are on my Trotec, and I believe you can find them also on troteclaser.com. Now, are they perfect catch-alls for every type of material testing you might ever want to do? Not necessarily, but once you've built that test matrix, that material setting that is all 16 colors with each one assigned to a separate effect or a separate step, hopefully you only have to build that once. Once for engraving, once for cutting, and then aside from that, you never, ever, ever have to do them again. So I agree with you. It is a bit tedious to build that original one, but once it's built, you're set.
Yeah, and I've done it on our YouTube channel on some of the profile creations and stuff on the job control profile. And a lot of times those job control profiles can also be sent or saved. You can just download that file and bring it into Ruby. So I have done that. If you've seen, I did a little wheel which has all 16 different colors because there's no wrong setting. So many people think, what's the right setting? Well, it's really when I'm engraving something, and it's you. Yeah. I mean, when I'm engraving wood at 5% or 15 or 30% power or speed, there's no wrong setting. It really depends on the effect that you're looking for. We will have suggested settings based on an overall consensus that says this is good, but there's no wrong setting for that. And so you're right. Coming in here, it would be nice to have to basically have one that basically says, all 16 test setting or something like that. And, and I can come through and, within 2 minutes I could build one. And maybe on the next one, we can post it in the actual chat. And that's what I'll actually do is I'm going to build a 16 setting and then I'll post it at the end of this stream, I can post it a link to it. So you guys can just download it. And so it'll have all 16 colors, one for cutting. So you can do 16 different colors of cutting and then another one for engraving. So you just drop those into your Ruby and you can adjust the power or speed a little bit depending on the material running, but at least that'll have that in it. So I'll get that to Dawn. We will drop that into the links description in the description at the end of this chat so that you guys can just download it, drop it into yours, and you don't have to create one.
Awesome. That's sweet, man. Sounds good.
Yeah, easy enough to do. I can do it in minutes, and that way there's no complexity for you folks out there don't want to try to muddle through it.
Well, and I will say too, it's something that I usually when I go on site to do an installation of a new machine, I will build it for the customer just because I think it is a vital thing to have for everybody. But if we have a quick reference place where people can come back and just download one, all the better. I think I might even mention it in the Ruby feedback to just say, is this something we could add as a global preset that we could just put in there?
It wouldn't be hard for any of us to actually create it, but yeah, a preset or test matrix setting or something like that in our profiles, that'd be a great one. So if anybody from headquarters is watching this, definitely would be a great feature for those folks that are trying to dial in a new material or something unique or different.
So question here from Tech Templates. What adjustments are made to setting if you're engraving text all the way across the bed, but you find that the quality falls off at the start and at the end? They say they particularly see this with rastering leatherette. So as I understand the question, if they're doing an engraving all across the bed, but they find that at the very start and the very end of their engraving, I'll put it in camera, it's not quite the same quality for whatever reason. Are we coming back to our high quality mode? Is this where we've come back around to?
Honestly, this is high quality mode, and leatherette is one of those materials that are very difficult. And it really depends on the color. So many people is like, well, what's the setting for leatherette? And I'm like, okay, what color is it? Is it a metallic backing? Is it a black backing? Black ones are, when you engrave black, it's easy. But when you're doing like the metallics, I feel you. I have the same problem. Settings can be different. The other thing too is kind of towards the beginning and end, it likes to kind of bow up a little bit sometimes because of the heat of the laser. It starts to pull up, so it goes out of focus. And especially the metallic based stuff, it's really tricky. So a vacuum table will help that. High quality mode will help that. You shouldn't see it vary in the near, on the left and the right side, because even all the Trotec machines actually go past zero margin so that we don't run into acceleration curves. The only time I've run into this is, yes, it's the design file, so high quality mode can make a difference there. The other one is the material tends to flex and pull a little bit from the heat, especially when you're doing larger graphics, and sometimes that will take it out of focus. And the metallic materials, they don't handle focus deviation at all. So it's a tricky material to work with. Tape it down, make sure that it's flat, use a vacuum table, use high quality mode. And now if it's in one spot of the field, it could be an alignment issue. That's a service tech issue, easy adjustment, and that could solve it. But if it's consistent on both sides, it could be a bowing issue, a heat issue, a high quality mode issue. All those things are worth a try.
Hey, question for you, just based on what you were just talking about. When you're trying to, so a question I often get from customers when we're talking about a new machine is that vacuum table going to hold my material flat down on the bed? And the answer is oftentimes like it's going to certainly be better than the standard engraving table, but you can't expect it to be super powered vacuum underneath. There are little tricks and tips that we can teach you in terms of blocking off areas of the table to make, to focus your suction in certain areas. But I wanted to ask you, what is your go-to strategy for flattening a piece of material that is potentially, is it tape? Is it magnets? Is there like a trick that you have? I came across a customer who's using rocks, right? I mean, you can use anything that's not going to damage the laser. Sure.
Honestly, it depends on the material, the scenario, the situation. The vacuum table works exceptionally well. I have no problem with it. But there are a few caveats, as Don said. One, you have to make certain that all the excess portions of that cutting table is covered. Two, you have to have a good exhaust system. If you have a great exhaust system, and if you have a blast gate on that exhaust system, you can make sure most of that air is flowing down through that cutting grid, or block off most of the upper exhaust. This way you get the full vacuum effect. Also, don't grab your parts out, leaving little openings. It's going to reduce your vacuum consistently. Always keep them in place. Make sure everything is done. I have no problem with our vacuum table. It works extremely well. But the one thing that will cause it the most is you're cutting a whole bunch and it just slowly releases that pressure. Two, you don't have a good enough exhaust unit. Your exhaust is, 40 feet away. It's a little under spec. You're going through 5 or 6 different bends. You're not going to see as good of a return on that. So there are a lot of things that can make a difference. You're using a very porous fabric where the air pulls through it very quickly. That can be a problem as well. So, some fabrics can be a problem where paper and plastics are no problem at all. There's too much bend or warp in the material. You're doing a 1/4-inch piece of plywood that's got a good flex in it. There's only so much it can pull down in those cases. Sometimes I'll find that it's better to just use the laser to cut it in half and then vacuum down both halves. This way,
That's
it's going
smart.
to kind of take part of that flex away, and then the vacuum table works very well because there's only so much vacuum can do. So lots of tricks of the trade. Magnets, tape, you got to do what you got to do. But as long as you got a good exhaust system, the vacuum table will work in most cases. Pending that you're fully covered that grid and don't pull any of the openings away.
Yes. Question here from Brooklyn, which is one that I've never come across. When I create a star in Ruby and want to add a radius on all points, I'm only able to add a radius to 4 of the points, but the top point does not allow me to do a radius. That's one I very rarely create a polygon star inside of Ruby.
That's a very unique question. I'm going to have to try that.
Clearly one here that they've tried. Let's give it a rip here.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I'm just it takes me a second to even remember how to do a star here. So
5-point polygon.
Yeah, we're going to take and we're going to create this, and then we're going to.
Well, so that's a 6. If we make it a 5, it'll be a star. Yeah. So when you go into that polygonal menu up there and make it 5.
Yeah. Oh, it is 6.
You got her. Yeah. Still 6, I think.
Oh, we need to make it 5. Well, what am I thinking here?
Yes, sir. Dave's already the star of the webinar, so he's wondering why, or maybe it's.
Okay.
I assume when they say a star, I mean, they say they're able to do a radius on 4 points, but not the top point. So I assume that means a 5-point, regardless of what the shape is.
It's true. It wouldn't matter what the shape is. And so you're wanting to do a radius at this point. And that is a good question.
This might be one that we save for next week. Come back to you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
When you say radius, are we thinking we're talking rounded corners, or are we thinking
the rounded corners? I'm trying to remember.
I think it's in that.
Because the squares they give you immediately a rounded corner, but on these, that rounded corner doesn't show up. So you see the difference. So there's the radius right here. So I can say, hey, I want a radius here. I've not tried it with this shape, and so you're literally seeing me here. Muddle through it to, it's easy to make a radius on that. Or maybe when I bring that star in from like Corel or something like that, it's not wanting to do that. It's a good question.
So they do clarify in the chat too. They do say yes, the rounded corners. Ray mentions too, is there a possibility that the 1st and 5th point aren't closed?
That's a very good possible. If for some reason the radius is not closed or that corner is not closed, it has to be a complete closed curve for that to radius. The other thing too is if the radius is too large, it may not make it, so it's not able to do that. This is a brand new feature we've added just in the last couple of versions, so I do believe maybe there may be a few glitches there. I'm going to play with it a little bit more. We'll showcase that on the next stream. That's a great one to showcase. Since it is a new feature, I can even honestly say I haven't played around too much with it besides just simple squares and shapes like that when I need it.
I've added it to the list. It's going on the remind me list.
No, that's a great one. Even myself, Ben, have not tried every combination of features here.
Quick one here from D. Holner. And apologies to anyone in advance if I mispronounced your name. That's a Canadian accent problem. This may have been answered before, but I'm using JC to control my SP1500. Is Ruby compatible with the SP1500 machine? I'm afraid not at this time. The SP machines in general are sort of on a bit of a development pause with Trotec at the moment. I think it is something that is in consideration, given that obviously we have a considerable number of SP machines out into the field that they want. And I know that the SP500 does run on Ruby. So yes. I think it is something that is in the development pipeline, but has not yet been implemented, is my understanding. But definitely, I appreciate you mentioning it because it's something that we can bring back as a piece of feedback and say, particularly, the reason I mentioned it also is because, David, you mentioned today is the last day of support officially for job control. To clarify that too, it's not to say that tomorrow if you try to open your job control, it's not going to work. It's just to say that there will be no further development on the software, so there won't be new versions that will occur after.
Yeah, so be careful. If you still want to use it, it will continue to use, as Don said. But, if Windows 12 comes out and you want to hurry and buy a new computer, you may find that it doesn't work with job control. So sometimes when software is discontinued, it's going to work indefinitely. But if your hardware, like your computer changes, or there's a software update or a security update, and all of a sudden it stops, it could be game over for that software. So it is a good idea to transport yourself into Ruby, because those type of situations won't happen.
This is an interesting one, not really a question, but just a cool thing that I'd never noticed from TAC that I'm going to add as a reminder to ask Austria about. I found when rotating an object in the layout, the positioning coordinates don't change. So if I rotate an item 90 degrees to the right, the top left coordinate becomes the top right coordinate.
Now it changed. So yeah, I mean, you can see the coordinate changes when I rotate it to whatever that is. And so, I mean,
now that is no longer the top right coordinate, I guess, is the strange thing, right? But
so say
definitely something
if it's snapped to a specific location, maybe, so it's on the pointer right there. So I'm snapped to the pointer, and then if I rotate it, okay, you'd have to re-snap it to that corner. It changes it because it is rotating it on its center axis, but it wouldn't rotate and snap, I guess. But it does change the orientation or position of that corner.
Weird. That's a good one to experiment. I'm gonna have a little play with that. Still having an issue. So, pardon me. This is Fallcraft. Still having a problem with 1/4 inch clear or LED white acrylic flaming very badly at cast acrylic. Should I switch to a 2.5 inch lens and or exterior air assist? So my feeling on this before I hand you over to the King. I'm just gonna throw this up on screen and leave it there for a minute.
Thank you, Dan.
the 2.5 inch lens does not automatically mean you will have a greater, higher quality or less flaming in your cut.
Actually, going to be more.
That would be my feeling. Is my first go-to if flaming is a really, really tricky issue is probably gas kit more than anything, or gosh, it's a tough one. Changing your focal distance maybe so that you're a little bit inside the material as opposed to further away. What do you think, Dave?
And for that thickness, you shouldn't see flaming. There's something wrong. There's something not right. You should have no flare up. I mean, because the systems have air assist built in. If I was cutting that thickness with any wattage, even on my little, Speedy 50 with 30 watts, I shouldn't see any flaming. There's several things that will cause that. A longer lens, yes, it'll get it further away, but now your beam diameter is larger. And when you have a larger beam diameter, it takes more energy to cut through that thickness of material. More energy means more heat. More heat means more flame. So longer focal lengths are not going to resolve flame up issues. It's going to actually make them worse. Your air assist is even further away, so it's not blowing that flame out. Longer focal lengths are great when you need distance and clearance and more tolerance on a material. But when it comes to flaming, the 2-inch lens is going to be the king. It is the gold standard, even up to about 1/2 of an inch. Because again, you're not removing more material. You're now producing more heat, which is now more flame. Your nozzle's even closer to the material itself. But what I find with flame is usually in the case that focus is not correct. That is the single only thing that will cause it. And it could be that your focus calibration is not right. So you're maybe focusing perfectly, but your little tool is wrong. Or your autofocus is wrong. That is the single biggest thing that will cause flame up. The other thing is your air assist on your system should easily dampen the flame for that thickness of material. You want to make sure your nozzle and your air pressure is turned all the way up. And on the left side of the arm, I don't know what model you have. Typically, there's a little valve there. And make sure that that's turned all the way to maximum, and it's going to reduce that. For your thicknesses, even with those colors, extruded is not a problem. For those thicknesses, you should not see any flame. So I would really, really look at your focus. I would look at your focus calibration, make sure it's right. Talk to a tech, make sure something's right. Make sure you don't have any issues with your optic as well. I've had little micro fractures shown in optics, and it fractures and shatters the beam. So the beam comes out as a spray of energy rather than a focus point of energy, and you get a burst of flame in that case. You don't even see that. It's something that happened to that lens in a microscopic crack. Replacement of the lens is the only fix in that case, and it's hard to even see. So things like that we need to investigate further, because you shouldn't be seeing any flame with your system for that thickness.
Gotcha. Question here from Isaac. when I have a PDF with multiple cut layers, I can't rotate all layers. And I assume they mean simultaneously. Can this be done? So I assume this is a PDF, not with multiple pages, but with multiple different colors, like multiple different. I'm trying to think of how, like different layers. I assume in the original program, like different layers in Photoshop, is what I'm imagining their meaning.
Yeah,
And then when you bring them over,
yeah, when you bring in multiple pages and you import a PDF with say 5 different pages and they bring them in, you can set that to where they all bring into as one page and show up on the screen, or they show up as separate jobs or files in Ruby. And you can set that up in your settings. You can go into the materials and you can go down to settings. Let me change that. And then under PDF, we can identify how a PDF imports. You know, do you want it to show up as a single design, multiple designs, or just drop everything onto the first page? And so that depends. And it really depends. I mean, which one of these you actually select, which is how it brings in. So my suggestion, if you've got a 5-page PDF, is you bring it into multiple designs. And so if I got a 5-page PDF, it's going to show up as 5 different jobs in here. So when I drop it in here, it's literally going to show up as 5 separate jobs on here. And then you can select each one and then rotate them separately. I think I need a little bit more understanding of, because then I couldn't select each job and rotate them all. I would need to go to each individual page. Now, if I bring that in and then do it all on one single page, where all of it that's just the first page of the PDF, or I'd multiple all of them on the same page, they're going to kind of be all overlaid to each other, because all 5 pages will literally be stacked on top of each other. You kind of have to drag them apart. And if you select them all, you can rotate them all at the same time and then move them apart that way. So
gotcha.
If you could expand a little bit more, but I think maybe this is the part that you may be missing, because once it's in here as a page, there should be no problem. I mean, I can easily take that job and rotate it within here once it is actually as a separate job onto there, as long as I select them all. Even if I have 5 or 6 jobs on here, I should be able to rotate them all separately in either my design or my prepare screen.
Gotcha. Okay. Fallcraft mentions too that they do their focus on the center of the material and it's flaming really bad. You know, at that point, I would almost say you might want to have a technician take a look at that, just to be sure there's no small gap in the air line that's occurred somewhere, or just, as David said, there can be a few little things that just we would want to be sure, because we don't want to have that flaming affect your lens or hurt, you know, your laser in any way.
And it may be your lens that's causing the issue, or again, if your little focus tool is not calibrated right, everything is off from then on. You shouldn't see the flare. But it doesn't matter where you focus, but if the focus calibration is off for the little manual tool, and they're adjustable. And it's a little process our techs can walk you through on how to get that adjusted. So I think that's probably your problem, because again, you shouldn't see you shouldn't see flare up unless your settings are totally wrong as well. So use the presets, talk to a tech. We can expand on that. It's not normal, so we need to find out what's going on on your system.
Definitely. Another question quick here from JC3OS 306. Oh my goodness. Is there a way to do a Ruby dry run with the red laser or the laser pointer to show where the process is going to occur without actually engraving or cutting? My go-to for this has always just been to run your setting at 0% power, but I'm curious, Dave, if you have a better... I mean, the speed markers do this with that beautiful pre-visualization square, but
you see the little one, or you can run a little box around it at 0 power and have the head go around the actual product and visually kind of show around it. Job Control had that neat little feature. You could push a button and it would just kind of like trace around and around and around an object. I don't think Ruby ever got that feature.
What about okay, so question for you, coming back to the mask discussion we were having earlier. If I set a mask color that's above my process colors, does it actually, when it hits the mask color, does it actually do anything on the laser bed, or is it there as a...
The mask is visual only. Yeah, it's basically it's a mask. It's there to just show you what that, ideally used for a template, since you never actually want to do anything of that. So yeah, I mean, the camera system's nice because you can see it, if I have a camera on my laser, but if you don't have the camera, you can't position your graphic. I can't say, hey, I want to run this and place it right here, or it doesn't fit here, so I want to rotate it 90 degrees to fit onto this sheet of material. To do that is why the cameras have now been kind of adopted on the new systems, but a lot of systems out there without a camera on it. So I can understand. Yes. Another quick way to do that is to use the red dot pointer on the laser system itself. And so when I have the red dot pointer positioned right here onto something, I can quickly F8 key. And if you hit the little question mark basically up here, and where's the question mark? They moved it. What's the help?
We have a question mark about where the question mark. I think it might still be in the hamburger menu, though. Am I wrong in saying that the Ruby help should still be in the hamburger menu?
Each one of these. Where'd it go? You used to have a little question mark up here. But it basically gave you, there it is. They moved it to the right-click menu.
Right-click menu.
So toggle help and stuff. And so what that'll do is it'll give you all your quick keys. And so that is your quick keys. But in there is the F8 key. So the F8 key, so if I right-click and toggle help and say, which one was that? The F8 key is your marker. So F8 is a snap marker. So right here is where the red pointer is. If I hit F8 on my keyboard, it's going to put a marker on the screen. And then I can move my red pointer to another location, and it puts another marker on it. And so, I mean, my laser's out in the lab here. So if I were to move my pointer, that marker still stays right here. And then I could put another one and another one and another one. And I can literally use my red pointer to kind of position something. And then the files will snap to a marker just as well as the red pointer. And so, but the pointer doesn't have to be there every time you hit that F8 key. And it allows you to say, hey, I need to find the corners or 3 points of one location to make sure, and then I need to draw a box around it so I can snap to it. And this is going to give you orientation and position. So that's one way to do it, and to kind of get that orientation. Or you can draw like you say, a red box here and say, okay, I need to draw a box around that product and put it in the position of it. And then I just set my power to 0 and hit start, and it's going to show with the red pointer where that's at. You can even say, hey, I need to run in 4 passes, and it's just going to go around and around and around 4 or 5 passes while it's doing it. And you can push start and watch that move around the product to make sure it's correct first. So that's a way around it. And it works just kind of like the old days in job control, but just doing it manually.
Gotcha. We're just past an hour here, so I've got one last question here. And then the others I'm going to add them to the Don't Forget Me file, and we're going to bring them back at our next Ruby webinar, which will be announcing the date. I don't think we have a specific date for it just yet, but we're going to be announcing soon. Because of Thanksgiving in November, some of the Fridays we would normally be doing webinars are going to be holiday days, so we're just kind of moving some things around. But if you guys stay tuned to our emails, which I hope you are already, and stay tuned to the YouTube channel, you will see them there. So a question here from JEPS, is flaming under acrylic normal when cutting 3/8 inch acrylic? We've had technicians come on site for alignment, maintenance, repair, etc. And when they see it, they didn't seem concerned.
That's a great question. And it can be pretty normal because you're blasting out all that excess energy, and your exhaust, especially on a vacuum table, is being pulled out. And so in most cases, it doesn't damage or cause any problem, especially on thicker stuff with lower wattages. If it does cause problems or it causes staining on the backside, you may want to increase your airflow going through that exhaust table. And so a blast gate is nice. It's basically a little valve that you can put on your exhaust system that allows more airflow to go underneath of it. If that becomes a problem, take a look at I have a laser hack on how to eliminate any type of flaming entirely. It's called a paper towel trick. Yeah, really good one. And so this eliminates it entirely. So what you do is you just take a simple couple sheets of wet paper towel or newspaper and place it down on your cutting grid, and then stick your acrylic on top of that and go ahead and cut. What that does is it dampens that excess energy, and it in all my testing cases, even up to 3/4 of an inch cutting on an 80 watt, I got 0 flame. So there are techniques to get around that. A little bit of flame on the backside is very, very normal. This is one way. Another reason we always say to keep close attention on your laser system when you're cutting,
Yes.
especially acrylic. It is the notorious one for getting away from you if you're not there for it. So definitely watch that laser hack video, play around with it. A little bit of flare up is not bad. If it dwells and causes serious problems or distortion in your material, then you may need to address it. If it's just a little flare into the corners that's going around the corner because it's changing directors, that's very, very normal. Doesn't typically cause any issue, concern, or problem. And it is very normal. But again, don't go to lunch while you're sitting there cutting thick acrylic like that, because it could potentially get away from you, and that's one of the worst materials out there.
Don't go to lunch while you're cutting anything.
Right.
Exactly. Even if it takes 10 to 15 seconds.
Even if it takes 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah. My feeling on this has always been, if you see a little flame, particularly one that seems to be following your laser head, typically nothing to be concerned about. The only thing you don't want to ever see is something that catches flame and stays on fire. Yeah. Then you want to stop your laser and get it out of there right away. But yeah, a little bit of flame underneath the acrylic. Yeah. If you're not using Dave's laser hack, which I highly encourage you to check out, is not abnormal, particularly at that thickness.
Well, a laser is pure heat. Understand, the ultimate goal of a laser is it is no different than a flaming torch. So our ultimate goal is to just control it. And so a little bit of flare up and flame up. Yeah, you may not see that laser beam, but it's no different than a flaming torch, just much smaller and far more controllable. So we are in essence cutting with pure infrared heat. The goal is to have it do the effects we want without causing those problems with flare-ups. And so a little bit in the corners, very normal. But again, is it causing problems, damage, issues? It's going to damage your optics. That's when we need to be concerned. Little flare-up here and there is not an issue at all.
Exactly. Hey, I want to give a huge thank you to everyone. As always, we never seem to get to every single question, but we had some fantastic questions today that I hope people find helpful. So a huge thank you to everybody who watched today. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, obviously a big thank you to you too. Make sure to leave a like and do all the fun YouTube things. What I will say is if you leave a comment or a question underneath the video as well, we will really do our best to get back and answer those questions. Sometimes it takes us a little longer, obviously, than we can do right here live, but we still try our best to get back there. And I know we had a few people mention that they would really appreciate if you could, we could toss that material setting you were talking about, Dave, into the description as a downloadable thing. Or if nothing else, we will leave you guys a link to it on my Trotec if we get it up there and it's easier or whatever it might be. But certainly, definitely something we want to get you guys. Want to say once again a huge thank you to Laser Dave. As always, man, thank you for taking the time. Pleasure. Greatly appreciate it. I learned something new, as does everybody, I think. A happy Halloween to everybody. I hope you have a safe and fantastic weekend. Take care of yourselves. Have a fantastic lot of candy or whatever treat you're into. Go Blue Jays. I'm sorry to throw that in at the end, but it is potentially the last game tonight. And again, I hope you guys will keep an eye out for whenever we do the next one of these Ruby seminars coming up in November. But with that said, thank you very much, everybody. We will see you again next time.
All right. Thank you.